Hi and welcome to the Focus Training Group and welcome to this presentation about Legionella Awareness. What this presentation is going to do is to give you an insight into Legionella and just make you aware of some of the implications associated with the Legionella disease. So I'm going to give you a bit of background to the disease and what's so dangerous about it. We're going to look at some of the health implications associated with the Legionella disease, what effects it can have on you as an individual, and what we can do to mitigate the Legionella itself. So let's give you a bit of background to the Legionella disease itself. So in 1976, the annual American Legionnaires Conference took place in the Bellevue Stratford Hotel in Philadelphia in America. The Legionnaires became ill, which initially they thought was through the food poisoning, poor old chef. However, it transpired that passers-by in the street were also being affected. Overall, 182 people were affected by this Legionella disease. Sadly, 29 of them died from the mystery illness. What a fantastic hotel, isn't it? Good old America. So as I said earlier, initially food poisoning was suspected, however this was soon dismissed. Upon investigation, they found a bacteria living in the cooling tower, which that cooling tower was then used for air conditioning for the hotel. Because it was outside the building, the wind at the time was also blowing over the cooling tower, and this also affected the passers-by on the streets below, and that's why they became ill as well. So this is where the Legionella disease got its name from. It was given the name after the disease that was discovered after that American Legionnaires Conference. The Legionnaires disease itself is a potentially fatal pneumonia type of infection, and that can affect the lower respiratory tract. So we can see there under a microscope, that's the little monkey that gives us so much of a problem. So some of the Legionnaire's disease symptoms can include initially flu-like symptoms, headaches, muscle pain, a high temperature, tiredness, and a confused mental state. If it advances, it may also lead to vomiting and diarrhea. So once the bacteria starts to infect the body, you may experience symptoms of pneumonia, such as a dry, persistent cough, which as the illness progresses, may lead to coughing up of other substances. It could also include a shortness of breath, chest pains, and if it's allowed to continue untreated, sadly it may lead to an untimely death. So how do we become infected? Well, we can see here, this is something hopefully you all use every day, a wonderful shower. So the disease itself can be contracted by inhaling the water droplets, or in other words, the aerosols. So particles in the air, which are suspended, and it is these that contain the bacteria. So the disease can be contracted by inhaling water droplets, otherwise known as aerosols. And these are suspended in the air, which contain the bacteria. So when we're in the shower, breathing in and breathing out, potentially you could be breathing in these aerosols. It is also important when turning taps on to open the tap slowly to avoid splashing the surface and creating more aerosols, which again could be breathed in. Believe it or believe it not, you can drink the water and not be infected, as the water goes into our stomachs and then the stomach acids break down and naturally eliminate and flush through the bacteria. It is therefore only when we breathe the bacteria that it causes the respiratory problems. So what conditions allow the bacteria to form? So we can see here a dirty brown sludgy tank. So these conditions support the growth of the bacteria. Also, any other water system that is subjected to storage temperatures between 20 and 45 degrees Celsius. That then becomes an ideal breeding ground for the bacteria. So again, any stored water systems that haven't got their lids tightly fitted, they're not conforming to the current water bylaw 30s. If there's any sludge, scale, any organic matter, and any biofilms, these all could allow the bacteria to form. Any further recirculated water systems, so storage tanks, hot water cylinders, etc. Again, ideal breeding grounds if their water is not maintained below 20 degrees C or above 60 to 65 degrees C. So how can we maintain our system temperatures? Well, again, using thermostats or temperature controls, it's important that we keep the water below 20 degrees C, either by insulating the pipes. So if we store the water below 20 degrees C, we can see that the bacteria remains dormant. If we keep the water temperature between 60 and 65 degrees C, it will kill the bacteria on average in 32 minutes. So now we know why our water's so hot when you go to your local pub. So what can we do to eliminate the risk? So on a regular basis, as per the ACOP L8, weekly, monthly and quarterly checks are recommended. So the ACOP is the approved codes of practice. The L8 is a document that Legionella relates to. When we're talking about flushing our systems, please ensure you have a digital thermometer to ensure the temperature of the water is as per the following, and also a timer or stopwatch to ensure that the minimum time has passed before turning that water supply back off. So PPE is mandatory to be worn at all times whilst working on the system, and particularly when flushing the pipework. This PPE must include eye protection, a face mask to prevent inhaling the aerosols, and waterproof gloves. As you'll see later on in the slide when we're cleaning shower heads, we're dealing with bleach. So it's important that all hot and cold water taps to be run slowly initially to avoid splashing, and then to be run for a minimum of 5 minutes at all outlets. The hot water will then need heating up with their relevant heating sources, so i.e. immersion tank or your water boilers, and tested so that hot water reaches 50 degrees C within 1 minute. So if we've got a water heater that we use for tea and coffee, we must ensure that that is run for a minimum of 5 minutes cold and then heated to full temperature, and then rerun, ensuring that the temperature reaches a minimum of 50 degrees C within 1 minute. All shower heads to be taken off the hoses and immersed in a bleach solution for a minimum of 30 minutes. It is also imperative to allow plenty of ventilation in that area, as you're probably aware the fumes can be quite obnoxious. It's important that the shower head is then thoroughly flushed with clean water and then refitted to the shower hose. It is then important to run the shower at its maximum temperature for 5 minutes to ensure that all the bleach is cleaned from the system. So all toilets to be flushed to ensure fresh water is drawn into the systems. So further reading, this is not an exhaustive list of the procedure to follow when carrying out the previous mentioned flushing. For more detailed information on the Legionnaires' disease, you can download the HSE approved code of practice, so the ACOP L8, and that is a free downloadable copy, and that can be obtained from the Health and Safety Executive. So the web address for them is www.hse.gov.uk/pubns/L8.pdf. We hope that you liked our focused PowerPoint presentation on some of the risks associated with Legionnaire's disease, and how to overcome it. So please feel free to download the above documentation, but also remember to visit the Focus Training Group's website, where there is a variety of information on some of the hints and tips and some of the courses offered by the Focus Training Group.